Hey guys, what's up, and welcome back to another episode of Gaming Podcasts, Season 3, Episode 3, with myself and none other than Jay Buston. Jay, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good.
It's Monday.
Yeah, Mondays are the second worst day of the week.
My job has drastically shifted how I feel about Mondays
Oh yeah.
since I got this new position within the same company I don't remember if I've talked about this on a podcast or not, but and I know Jay already knows, so this is irrelevant for him, but
You think I pay attention?
fair enough.
Adorable.
So I was just doing a normal position temporarily, and then I got promoted to an inventory specialist within the same company, and now I work Monday to Friday, 7 to 4 at a warehouse, and have an office inside the warehouse, but the warehouse is closed on Mondays. So I am more times than not, I am the only person in the building. Every now and then there might be one or two people come in there for something like for 5 or 10 minutes and then leave. But for most of the day, I'm literally the only person there. So, I do my work. I'm not bothered. If I want to make a random noise as loud as I want to, I can do it. If I just want to make a goat noise
I feel like that really wouldn't have stopped you before, though, if people were around. You would.
that's
I'm not going to be obnoxious just because there's people here.
That's fair, but I can do it with zero repercussions. Let's say it that way.
Fair.
Let's say it that way. So it makes me not dread Mondays as much. I don't know why, because I've always liked people, so that doesn't really affect me. But it may just be that the position I'm in now, I'm not having to work with customers either.
I mean, that makes a huge difference. I mean, my day job is similar to where I walk in. I don't care who else is in the building because I put my headphones in and listen to whatever I want to listen to and do my job. And when I'm done, I go home. I don't have to talk to anyone if I don't want to.
Yep. Same thing. So we're doing very similar things now. So it's changed the way for me, and Monday is still, hey, the weekend's over. I got to go back to work, but I don't dread work right now. I like what I do. So
yeah, I mean, like I don't dread work, but like I report to work for 6 a.m. So I get up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock or whatever, and it's just rough to do that after the weekend. But
right, I don't get there quite that. I usually get there around 6:45, 6:50. Not quite that early, but I could do that on any days if I wanted to. But the building itself closes at 4:30, so it makes more sense for me to be there till like at least 4 p.m.
Right.
So that's what I do. So anyway, there's our random intro of the day. So moving on to, I guess, actual important topics that are relative to what we're going to be talking about in the gaming world. So we have several things that we're going to kind of discuss today. If for whatever reason, if none of you know this, if you're just new and you've never watched Jay stream ever,
maybe you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes for the first time.
Selfless plug that we have this. I still do not know why season 3 is not on there yet. Everything I've read says, once you've synced this up with your hub site, that every time you upload, it should feed over. But for whatever reason, right now, season 1 and 2 are the only things that are on there. Maybe it'll show up eventually. I don't know. I'll have to kind of check with that as it goes. But yeah, so it's on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes is where you can find any of the previous podcasts. And then for the updated ones, just keep doing like you're doing and coming to YouTube. But if you've never gone to see Mr. J stream, he does it. That's all I have to say.
Regularly.
No, but seriously, he has a thing he's been doing really ever since I've known him that I can recall. It seems like you've always done this, to where come Halloween time, kind of almost the whole month of October sometimes, it seems that to the lead up of it, we kind of do this theme of playing games that have some sort of suspense or spooky-esque element to it.
Yes.
More or less, at least of what she can handle, because he has blatantly told us that he is not the greatest at
Oh no, I'm a
handling such topics.
Yeah, not good at it. Yeah, it's I tend not to do things that are too crazy. I think Until Dawn was one of the more scary ones I've done. I do own Dead Space, and I might get the gall to play
Ooh.
that one of these days.
I
But
will be there when I see that title come up on a notification. I will stop what I'm doing
but
and pull that up.
we've got a whole bunch of things to pull out, and this year I'm not doing it the whole month because I've just been busy with doing other stuff. I'm working on several different projects behind the scenes and stuff like that for various things. So I was like, but I have a bunch of like spooky notifications. So if someone follows, subscribes, gives bits, whatever, it basically jump scares me. So you, as a viewer, get to scare the pants off of me for money. And all the money goes back into, see, like one of the side projects I'm working on is I'm sitting at my desk right now with nothing on it but one monitor and my microphone because I'm in the middle of sacking this desk so that I can get a new setup in here ready to go, hopefully for tomorrow's stream, which by the time this goes up will have been yesterday, with a green screen and all this other stuff. So all of that was paid for by viewers like you. So thanks.
Get into the green screen world of things. I like it.
Yeah, it's going to be a new venture for me.
Are you going to put something ridiculous in the background? Or is it just going to be like clear?
Well, it's going to be clear for full screen games, like HD games. But if I'm playing something standard definition, I'm definitely going to put something stupid in the background. And I don't know what I'm going to put up there yet, but I'm open to suggestions. So
some sort of
send me a link on my Discord,
like a compilation of animal attacks videos just constantly behind you.
That'd be awful.
Of like a lion just sacking a gazelle.
Yeah. So now that we're like 7 minutes into this freaking episode, let's talk about a video game that has to do with kind of some the horror suspense elements that we were talking about. And this is one that I probably would play this year if it weren't for the release date. This game comes out on October 30th, which is just a huge missed opportunity in my book. I'm very busy the week of Halloween. I lead a giant outreach at my church where we have like 200 kids or so come through and give them candy and play games and whatever. So I don't have time to play this game this year, and I really don't want to be playing this game in November, so I'm probably going to save it for next Halloween. But it's called Call of Cthulhu.
And to re-emphasize exactly what he just said, like that just makes no sense to me that you would have a spooky game that you want people to play and you release it at the literally like right at the last day. I mean, I get it because it's coming out on Halloween, but wouldn't you rather them play it
day before Halloween, October 30th?
Or I mean, heck, even like a week, but like, wouldn't you rather them play it a lot leading up to it?
Yeah, like literally, if it came out a week earlier, I would buy it and play it this year. But it's not, so I'm not. I'm gonna wait for a sale and I'm gonna get it then. But yeah, so this game comes out on October 30th for all platforms that's not named the Nintendo Switch. Or no, that is, yeah, no. So yeah, the PlayStation, the Xbox, and the friggin' Steam, whatever you want to call it.
I love when your Boston accent comes
Well,
out.
Xbox is not a Boston thing. I just like to call it that because they're dumb.
Right.
So, but like you were saying, it's really weird that they, I'm glad they're not rushing a release, but like from what I've seen, this game can't be too far from done. But like, then you have a game like Visage, which just came out. It's in early access. That's what they did, is the game's not done yet, but they want people to play it now this Halloween. So they dropped an early access version of it a week ago. And a lot of people are playing it, to be fair. But like, I don't know. If I were them, I would have just waited the year and released a full scary game experience a year from now instead of half of one now and then the full thing a year from now, because no one's going to buy the full thing a year from now because they already played it. I don't know. That's me. Anyway, let's talk about Call of Cthulhu, Matt.
Okay. Now, the way that I personally love to do these things, just to give y'all kind of peek behind the curtain, so to speak, when we don't, we've talked about this before, we really don't write jack squat of notes for these things other than here's a topic, okay, let's talk about that and see where it goes. But the way I love to do it is if I get to an episode that I know Jay is about to talk about a subject matter, like it's predetermined that, hey, here's a game, hey, do you want to talk about that one? Okay, cool. You talk about that one.
Yeah.
I will not look into it at all.
Yeah, last recording session when we sat down and did episodes 1 and 2, Matt kind of, not really, but sort of gave me homework. He was like, look into this game. And so I did. And we were actually going to talk about it back then, but we just ran out of time. So,
Right.
which is good because it gave me a lot more time to look into this game.
Right, and it's a double whammy because he actually did look into it, which I didn't care one way or the other.
I've got notes. I got notes.
But he took down notes, and I did the opposite so that I would come at it with literal no idea of what he's about to say or what I'm about to hear about, and I could ask genuine, curious questions as he goes. Because to me, that's kind of what anybody listening would want to do. So maybe I would have similar questions.
I feel like I'm pretty well educated on this subject now, and I can get an answer to most of your questions. But let's just start off, get a broad brushstroke of what this game is. Call of Cthulhu, it's a video game based on the tabletop game of the same name that are based on the stories of H.P. Lovecraft, who everyone in the world seems to know who he is except for me. I'm just going to be honest with you. Everyone's like, oh, it's that Lovecraft thing. And I'm like, is that like a Minecraft mod? Like,
short version is he is an author of what most people would call cosmic horror. So if you're familiar with gothic horror, which is just your vampires, werewolves, stuff of that nature, cosmic, just in a more universe entity kind of things that are not from this world.
Well, that lines up with the genre of the game. It's a survival / psychological horror game with RPG elements, and that's weird to me. I watched some of this game, not like gameplay, but like clips here and there or whatever, and the RPG elements just seem so much extra. Like it's like they couldn't decide if they wanted to make an RPG or a survival psychological horror game, and they were like, we'll do both. And I don't think it's going to work as great as it could have if it dedicated itself one way or the other, but it will be interesting and we'll definitely see where it goes. The game takes place, I didn't know this until actually a couple minutes ago. Game takes place in 1924 on an island called Darkwater off the coast of Boston. So very close to home for me. Darkwater does not actually exist, although looking at the game, it looks a lot like Bar Harbor up in Maine. Or Bahaba, as we call it here. But
there it is.
But Darkwater is not actually a thing.
Okay.
So
it's a fantasy location.
Yep, fantasy location. Protagonist, you play as Edward Pierce, who is a private investigator. He's also a World War I vet. He's got a drinking habit, and so PTSD and alcoholism actually play a huge role in this game because you have like a sanity meter. So like the more things, like you need to keep a grip on reality while doing this investigation. But here's the deal: the more you investigate, the more your sanity goes down, because you're like figuring out, like you get wrapped up in this thing to revive Cthulhu, and you're like investigating this, and you're like, well, that's far-fetched and crazy, and so your sanity starts going down. But like it's a fact. So
how do we know how the sanity meter affects the gameplay?
It causes you to, I don't know exactly how, but it makes things harder. I'm guessing like more obstacles kind of pop up in your way. Combat becomes a thing. This is not a very combat heavy game. It's not a major focus. It focuses more on surviving than fighting. So like you kind of want to get out of combat as quickly as possible, but combat is there. But they kind of made it, the developers of the game, which is Cyanide Studios and Focus Home Interactives, kind of said like, if you're in combat for too long, regardless of how good you are, you will die.
Right. And the reason I ask is because I actually know a game with a similar feature as far as some sort of gameplay mechanic that will change.
Yeah, there's a lot of games with like sanity meters in it. Like freaking Visage, what I was just talking about. That game has a sanity thing. If you're in darkness for too long, you go crazy. So
the one I'm thinking of, which I haven't mentioned it, I feel like in a long time, so I feel like it's okay to bring it up again. I know I talk about it all the time, but Bloodborne actually.
Dark Souls 3? Oh, actually, I was surprised.
No, Bloodborne actually has what's called a insight meter, which it's funny because these actually tie in really close because Bloodborne also covers cosmic horror, which is the exact genre that this game Jay is talking about right now covers. And as you get more insight, the way the game works is it's in the story of things. Basically, you are beginning to learn more of what is going on, and because of that, it's weird to say this, but this is just how cosmic horror stuff works. So it's outside of the realms of normal reality. Since you actually understand it, those things can now affect you, whereas they didn't bother with you earlier because you were too, I don't want to say stupid, but unknowledgeable for them to bother.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But like, so in that game, it would literally affect what you could see. Like, and I mean, in any part of the game. So like, if you got to a certain insight meter and you went back to a place you've already been, there might be enemies there now that weren't there beforehand because you literally didn't have the insight to see them, and they are harder than the previous enemies. So it can be very annoying. So that's a
really good way to deal with like pacing in a game where you're kind of backtracking from time to time.
So that's a cool aspect. That's intriguing that they did that. I'd be interesting to see where that goes.
It's very interesting. So this game, Call of Cthulhu, it's about a 12 to 15 hour long game, just the main campaign. I guess it has side quests, which again seems a little strange to me, because it's a very linear game. But then every now and then you'll get to the town square and you'll have to choose which house do you want to go in? And so it opens up a little bit, and depending on where you go changes the ending of the game, and how much sanity you have at any given point changes the ending of the game. And so there are multiple endings in this.
There we go.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. There's some good replay value in it with all the different endings and different, because if you're like, oh, I'm going to go to the mayor's house. Well, then there's 4 other buildings you didn't explore, and you probably won't get to explore. So on your next playthrough, you're like, all right, I'm going to go to the shop instead and see what's going on there.
Because I have not looked anything on this game other than the name and the literal thumbnail of it. What are we talking about gameplay wise as far as the visual? Like, is it a very stunning graphical game, or is it more of a kind of like a dungeon crawler looking thing? Or
it's a first person perspective.
Okay.
It's I don't think it's going to win any awards for breakthrough in graphical innovation, but it is a very modern graphic game. It's not trying to intentionally be super polygonal or anything like that. It's not going for hyper realism or anything like that, but it is very beautiful looking. Or I'm going to feel really bad if they were trying to go for hyper realism, and it's not.
It's not at all. Oh,
but it's good. The game looks beautiful. It looks fairly realistic, but you can tell you're in a video game. There's dialogue trees that also affect endings and whatever. There's different. You can be compassionate. You can be very forward and direct with your questioning. You can kind of beat around the bush a little bit. It's very there's a lot of different things that you can do in this game. It's a very investigative game. So if you're like, I'm not good at video games and it's combat heavy or whatever, I feel like anyone could really get into this game. I don't think the combat is going to be a major block for anyone who, it's in a first person perspective. You are a World War I veteran. You do carry a gun, and there are scenes of you shooting at things, but you're shooting to get away. So I really don't think that combat's gonna put a huge strain on your gameplay experience if you're not into it.
Gotcha. So combat is, from if I understand correctly, combat is not per se the end all factor here. It's going to be this is what you use to help you get the heck out of Dodge. But it's not going to.
It's not a focus.
Yeah, it's not going to fix the situation to where you can breathe. It's kind of I guess that being said, is from what we can tell, is this going to be more of a suspense game or an actual jump scare horror type of game?
I mean, it's a psychological horror, so I would see it more of a suspense thing than I would freaking Resident Evil 7.
Which is fitting, because I know a little more about Lovecraft than Jay does, so psychological horror is very appropriate for that genre.
Yeah, and for someone who does not like horror games, I can see myself playing this.
Right, because it's a completely different type of thing. So I don't think it should be something that Jay... if Jay can play Until Dawn, from what he's describing of this game, I feel like this would probably be okay.
yeah, from what I've seen of this game, I'm like, I'm down.
Right.
I'll play this. Again, not this year because it comes out the day before Halloween.
Of course.
But
Well, you might still be able to play it on your own this year, maybe, but
I wouldn't. Well, I would want to go. When I'm streaming games like this, I want to stream them blind so that I don't know what I'm doing, so that things that are scary or new discoveries I can experience on stream for the first time. I think it creates a better watch environment for people watching me play the game. It's like let's players and let's plays are very like, I know everything about this game. Follow me on an adventure as I teach you everything. And for me, streaming, I get more enjoyment, not necessarily the most, but more enjoyment out of watching someone discover a game for the first time. Now, of course, you always have things like backseat gamers that'll show up and I'll pick the wrong path from the ending they wanted me to get, and they'll yell at me. But, it's whatever. That's why you don't play Detroit Become Human on stream ever, or Undertale for that matter.
Did you do that, or did you see somebody else go through that?
Well, Detroit Become Human is such a cult classic game already. I shouldn't say classic, but it has such a cult following. People are very invested in different characters, and there is permadeath in that game. And so if you screw up or make a wrong decision, someone's favorite character could die, and then they yell at you in chat. And Undertale it's a good game, but it's got such a weird following to it that people want you to play the game exactly how they do. It's the same thing with Pokemon, It's like, why aren't you using this Pokemon? Or you should check the IVs of this guy. It's like, I just want to play the game.
Right. We don't all have to experience it the same way, guys.
Yeah, and my chat's very good at that because they know me, they know my expectations.
Yeah, I was gonna say, from all the streams I've been at, I don't feel like that really ever happens. I mean,
no, not with me. But there are other times I'll go to someone else's stream. I'll be watching someone else, and their chats will be, yelling at them to do something a certain way or play this game, play that game. And I'm just like, why don't you just watch the dude experience this? Like, if you were in your living room playing Undertale or whatever for the first time, would you want someone spoiling the game for you and telling you how to play it? Like, no, you want to experience it for yourself. And so let this guy or girl do the same thing, A little bit of stream etiquette there for you. I could teach a masterclass on that, trust me.
Which, I mean, to back that, I have been a stream or two of Jay's to where, not to that extent of someone trying to do something, but I have been plenty of them to where somebody was trying to backseat in some form or fashion, or do a selfless.
I mean, it happens everywhere.
Or a selfless promotion, or some sort of, really, dude, kind of thing. And typically, what Jay does is one of two things: either A, literally doesn't talk about it at all, as if it were never there to begin with, which is probably a good route to go with. Or B, will kind of just take it as a joke and reply to it as a joke, which also appropriate. Because basically, he's not going to give in to what that person's looking for, which is one of two things: either A, to listen to what they do, or B, to do the exact opposite, which would be to, oh, I don't want to do that, as blah 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 blah, and then that just kind of feeds into this never-ending cycle of, well, that's stupid, and comment and whatever. So either way, the things I've seen Jay does works out to where it kind of nicks the conversation right then and there.
I mean, in instance, like I said, my community is real chill, and they know my expectations, and so that doesn't really happen a heck of a whole lot.
It seems to always just be like randos that just happen to hop in from somewhere.
Yeah, and again, that's if I know if I play stinking Call of Cthulhu, the diehard regulars will show up, but then also fans of Call of Cthulhu will show up that love the game and that want to watch people play the game or whatever. And then the next day when I'm playing, name it, any other game, the Call of Cthulhu people won't come back. Some of them, one or two of them might, but other people, they just like to go around and just watch the game that they like to play. And there's nothing wrong with that. So they'll show up, they don't care about my rules because they don't, they're not going to ever come back to my stream again. So they're just going to do what they want to do. And that's just the nature of Twitch. That's what it is.
Speaking of games that people would flock all over whenever this comes out, kind of switching gears for a little bit. Another game we really like to talk about. And Jay, you can stop me if you had anything else you wanted to talk to about Call of Cthulhu. But
No, I think I'm good there.
Red Dead Redemption 2
Oh,
would be
baby.
one of those that if you do decide to stream that on launch date, that's going to be a nightmare.
I am not. I'm going to go ahead. I did say that on stream. The Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to be a me game. It's going to be one that I play by myself, not streaming. I just want to enjoy this game for myself and enjoy it myself. I do know other people that are going to stream it or do day one Let's Plays of it. And I can point you in those directions if you want to. If you don't want to buy the game, but you want to know what it's about or experience it in a different way, you can, there's plenty of people I can recommend, but I'm not going to be one of them.
So this is another one of those games that, and there's no real particular reason for this, but I did not play the first one. I've watched plenty of playthroughs of it, but
did you watch the first one, Red Dead Revolver?
No, actually, I guess I have not.
I actually completely forgot that game existed until like 6 hours ago.
Until you just said that, I was like, oh wait, that does exist.
Right.
So no, I have not done that one. So I have watched Red Dead Redemption, I guess I should say, but haven't really looked a whole lot into Red Dead 2. And I don't know if you can even answer this. I'm kind of, I haven't looked enough into it to even know at this point, like who even is the main character? Because, this should go without saying because Red Dead has been around long enough at this point where I'm sorry, but major spoiler alert, just in case anyone is listening, but your character dies in Red Dead 1. Okay. That's how the game ends.
That game's been out for like a decade
right
now. I think that's fair to drop that one. I mean, I honestly, like Red Dead 1, never played it, never watched a Let's Play of it. I still know that fact. I've known that fact for years.
Right. I feel like it's pretty well known, but just in case he dies. Okay. Spoiler alert. So that being said, for me, when I heard this one was coming out, I was like, okay, is it a prequel? Is it a side quest around the same timeline, but a different character? Like or a sequel even with a different character? Like how are they going about this?
The main character, his name is Arthur Morgan. I'm literally reading the wiki right now. I didn't do my homework on this one.
Which is fine, because we kind of just decided this one last minute. So
it's an upcoming Western-themed action-adventure video game developed and published by Rockstar Games, who actually, their studios is like a mile from my workplace. It's scheduled for release October 26, 2018 for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Sorry, PC. Actually, that's not true. It's coming out on PC, too, because that's where I'm going to play it.
Right, so that had to be a typo. So we're like, yeah, it's coming out for PC. Give it time.
Yeah, that's really weird. This article is adamant that it's only coming out for the PS4 and Xbox One. It says it 3 different times, but I mean, the pre-order page is there.
If it's just common logic would if it's coming on Microsoft, it would undoubtedly come to PC.
Most of the time, yeah. Which is why they don't have any freaking exclusives.
Especially this big of a staple.
Yeah, but it's an interesting game. Like it's like Rockstar has made some beautiful open world games in the last decade or so. GTA 5 is still one of my favorite games of all time. I'm actually replaying through it right now just to kind of get my itch of Rockstar's open world games. Sorry, I always drink during these things, and when I drink, I burp. I'm having some Arnold Palmer iced tea. Sponsor me, Arizona, please.
Which is funny because I hate Arnold Palmer sweet tea.
Oh my goodness. Oh, sweet tea. No, I don't like their sweet tea. I just like the Arnold Palmer lemonade iced tea 50-50. Half and half, whatever you want to call it.
I don't know.
It's delicious.
I don't like lemonade and tea mixed together. I love them separate. I love them
so good.
I love them separated. I don't like them.
They're good. They're good separate too.
Yeah.
But
it's weird. I don't know. Something about that. I would rather have them individually.
So this Red Dead Redemption 2, if you don't know, it's a Western game. So like it takes place, I don't know the exact time period, but the Wild West and all that stuff. Sorry, I just insulted. It's set in the American frontier in 1899. It follows the story of Arthur Morgan, a member of the Dutch Vanderlinde outlaw gang. After a robbery goes badly wrong in the western town of Blackwater, Arthur Morgan and the gang are forced to flee, with federal agents and the best bounty hunter in the nation massing on their heels. The gang must rob, steal, and fight their way across the rugged heartland of America in order to survive. As deepening internal divisions threaten to tear the gang apart, Arthur must make a choice between his own ideals and the loyalty to the gang who raised him. So that's kind of weird. If you had a federal agent chasing you because you were robbing, stealing, and fighting, my solution to that would not be to continue to rob, steal, and fight. But, whatever.
I mean, you're also coming from a place of probably a higher moral compass than what this character might have.
Fair.
So if you're already breaking the law and you're already being chased after it, I mean, in a logical sense, I mean, it's not like doing it again is going to help you not be under. I mean, so
it's like
I guess
it's like that thing from Pirates of the Caribbean. One good deed is not enough to save a man from a lifetime of pillaging or whatever, but it seems enough to condemn him.
Right. So it's almost like the opposite, and it's like, well, man, I've already done it once, so here we go.
Yeah, whatever.
Down
here I go killing again.
Down the rabbit hole we go. That or just may have sociopath tendencies. Who knows? We may see that when the game comes up.
Whatever. Anyway, this game, I'm excited for this game, despite the fact I've never played any of the other Red Dead series. I just love Rockstar and what they've put out. This game looks really fun to play. The thing I love about Rockstar is their games, their newer ones, are seamless. It's when you enter a building, it doesn't load. When you go to a new town, it doesn't load. When you start a mission, it doesn't load. Like it has a long loading process to get into the game. It takes, when I boot up GTA on a PC, which is going to be a faster loading time than console, it takes like anywhere between 3 and 7 minutes, depending on what I'm doing or whatever, to load into the game, like to get the game started. But then once it's in, you're in. So you boot the game up, you go get yourself a snack, and then you can just play seamlessly for hours. And I love that about Rockstar.
Which would be why, I mean, it's give and take. Hey, do I want a lot of load times, but at smaller intervals, or just one load time at a slightly larger interval?
I would definitely pick the back half of that.
Yeah,
every time.
I'd pick the one every time. I'd be okay with that. So I agree with that sentiment. I think it's a good concept to have in gaming.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it's not always possible. I mean, Breath of the Wild was not like that. I mean, it would load the whole world and all the buildings thereof, but if you ever went into a shrine or anything like that, it would it would have to load the shrine and then reload the world, but it wouldn't dump the memory of the world. It would just take 5 seconds to get back out there. So
curiosity, and this has nothing to do necessarily with Red Dead, but in the spirit of Rockstar, because I don't really know actually a whole lot of Rockstar games off the top of my head. I'm sure I know more than I think I do. What would you?
I mean, their big ones are GTA and Red Dead.
Okay, I was gonna say, where would you put as what you think the top Rockstar game would be? Not necessarily meaning you had to have played them, but would you put Red Dead up there, or is there something else that they've?
At this point, games that are released already, I think GTA 5 is their biggest, most well-known game. They're still that game came out 5 years ago, I want to say, more than 5 years ago, because it was out before I got married, and I just celebrated my 5-year wedding anniversary 2 days ago. So it's been out for over 5 years, and they're still releasing DLC, free DLC at that. They've never once had paid DLC for this game. Granted, they do have other microtransactions in the game that I've never spent a dime on, and nor do I think you need to. But I don't know. I kind of like that way of doing things. Red Dead Redemption 2 will also have an online mode, but I think the bread and butter of it is going to be the campaign.
Because I've never even heard of Red Dead having actually an online mode, so I don't even know if did they attempt that in Red Dead Redemption, or is that just something that they're doing with the second one?
I don't think so. Like I said, I didn't play it.
Because that's a concept I didn't even think about up to this point, which would be cool. A lot like in the instance we were talking about last week with the Fallout multiplayer. I mean, it'd be, in my mind, it'd be similar, but hey, let's do this, but Western kind of thing. Let's go explore the Wild Wild West.
I'm thinking
Step on some
the map for GTA. Oh, sorry, I thought Discord cut out, so I thought you were done.
Step on some scorpions and stuff.
There you go. The map for GTA 5 when it came out was the biggest open world map that the gaming world had seen at that point. and it was the standard for a long time. I don't think you can have a world that big in Red Dead Redemption 2 because you're not in sports cars going 100 plus miles an hour. You're on the back of a horse. They don't go as fast as cars do. So I think that in order for you to get across the map in, an open enough time without having fast travel, because there's never been fast travel in any of these games, I don't think, because that would, cause you to load and would kind of unimmerse you from the game. It would be difficult to pull that off, to have a massive open world on horseback that would literally take you probably 30 minutes to get across. And that's just not fun at that point. I mean, you already kind of run into that in GTA, where I'm playing the game and it's like, all right, this mission's all the way up here on the other side of the map, which, realistically, you can get there in, 3 to 5 minutes, but it feels like an hour sometimes. And if you had to do that on horseback, it would literally, if you had to ride a horse from the port of LS, which is the southernmost point, all the way up to friggin' the bay up there, it would probably take you 35 to 40 minutes, and that's just not fun at that point.
No thanks.
Because there's nothing like to do in the world. Like in Breath of the Wild, like, yeah, it would take you forever to run across the map or take a horseback across the map, but there was stuff to do. There were Korok seeds to find and shrines to explore and all that stuff. But Rockstar games, I think that's kind of their one downfall, is they have these massive worlds, but they're empty as sin. Like, there's cool stuff to look at, but there's nothing to do.
Gotcha. So you're saying they achieved, impressive magnitude as far as the map, but it's kind of hollow, more or less, as to where it was like
very hollow. I don't know. Maybe it'll be different in Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't know.
That may be something to look forward to and kind of, keep that in mind and see like, hey, we're going to see a repeat, or, maybe fill it out a little bit. But needless to say, so that's going to kind of wrap up this week's podcast.
One more question I want to pick your brain with, Matt. Since this is kind of the overarching theme of the first half or first little bit of the season here, game of the year material. Do you think that, I know that you're not a big Rockstar fan. You've never played GTA, and I don't know if you'll play Red Dead Redemption. I don't know if it's your speed or whatever. Personally, I think this game could go toe-to-toe with any other game that's on the docket for game of the year so far. We'll have to see how it is on release and if it's stinking playable.
I agree. I think right now, as it stands, my 3 that I would throw in the pot for game of the year, in no particular order, would be this game, which would be Red Dead 2, Spider-Man, and God of War would probably be the 3 front runners in my mind. Again, I
probably agree with you there.
Yeah, again, in no particular order, and I feel that some of those kind of outweigh the others, but just knowing how in the past these things have gone and how people typically vote, those would be the 3 I'm kind of leaning towards right now, as far as keeping my eye on and thinking it's probably going to go one of these directions, and that may change as we get closer to time to actually vote for this, so to speak.
Right.
Where do you do you think this the same, or do you actually think this has a clear edge?
Oh, I don't think this has a clear advantage. I think that this game will definitely add to the conversation. Prior to this, really all we were talking about was Dad of War and Spider-Man. But I think Red Dead Redemption 2, I would be very shocked if it weren't on the ballot. And I think it would be one of the ones that if it won, again, this is without me having played it yet. If it won, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Gotcha. So I think I'm on the same page. Like,
I don't know if it has my vote yet. I have to play it first. But
it pretty much stick to word. Like, I think I would just literally say everything he just said. That I don't think my vote would be for this game, but at the same time, it would not shock me right now. Like, just right now, if suddenly the votes were cast and the game of the year was announced, in October for whatever reason, and this game won, even though it's not even out yet, just saying in a world where this was already released and whatever, it would not shock me because of what the first game was, and having that expectation going into this one. I feel like, yeah, sure. That kind of thing. But, we also have to wait and kind of see if this one even lives up to the first one. is going to be
Yeah.
a big, important
The
factor.
first one had a really big, impactful story,
Right.
and they wrote a really good story for GTA 5 as well. So like their writing staff can write.
Right. Without
So I'm very curious to see.
without a doubt, if it holds up to where the first one is, it's going to be a high contender. That much is certain. Like if it's anywhere near where the first one was as far as an overall game, then it's not even a question. Like it will be in the runner for game of the year. That much I can say without a doubt.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
But
Matt,
before we
question of the day.
But before we do, question of the day. With it, October is slowly but surely coming to an end. As you know, I know we're getting towards the middle of it, but as we
Halfway.
as we adult further and further, days seem to go faster and faster.
Yeah.
It never seems to slow down. So that
This
being
rate, I'll be dead tomorrow.
that being said, I'm going to go ahead and ask a Halloween-oriented question, if you will.
Spooky.
So I know this is a bad question for Jay because he doesn't really play this genre because he gets spooked super easy. But Jay, what is the scariest game you have ever played? And do you remember the moment of that game that scared you the most?
Huh.
If you want, I can go ahead and answer if you need to think about it.
Yeah, you go first while I lean back on this one.
Okay, mine is and I could actually list two games, but I will go further back and then a more modern one. Dead Space 1
Yeah, no thanks.
took me off guard. And you have to understand. So Dead Space 1 played in high school or maybe even late junior. No, it had to be early high school. I don't think it would have been old enough to be junior high. This is hard to kind of put into perspective for some people, but that was a different time internet wise than it is now.
Much different.
You really, there was not a lot known about that game other than that, hey, this is supposed to be scary. Okay, what does that mean? That's about all we had. There were no, well, I say no, I'm sure there were some sort of gameplay footage out there somewhere, but YouTube was...
Oh yeah, Something Awful was in full swing by that point. Something Awful was kind of like Let's Plays before YouTube was a thing.
Right. Like YouTube was not even the same thing at that point. I mean, yeah, it was there, but like
wasn't owned by Google yet, man.
You were going to have
It was a young company.
If you wanted to find some sort of footage of this game, you were going to have to dig a little bit to find, it wasn't going to type in Dead Space and have like thousands of options to look at. That was not the case. And even Google, for that matter, may only have a few articles, and at best they'd be vague. They wouldn't really be descriptive.
Like I said, over on Something Awful's website, you could probably very easily find something. You may have not been aware of that.
Was not.
And it probably wasn't as well known as like YouTube is today, but there definitely were places out there.
Correct.
That you could
No, I'm not saying there weren't places. I'm saying the two staples that people go to automatically, which would be YouTube or Google.
Which now is the same thing.
You wouldn't find as many results as you would now.
So that's your answer is Dead Space, scariest game?
That was going to be the scariest game. The moment is easy. It was the first jump scare of the game. Because
So I won't have to play far to quit the game. That'll be good.
Because have you ever watched anything on it? Like ever?
No. Well, like minutes of gameplay from some of my favorite streamers playing it, but not much.
Okay, so because I want to share my experience, but I don't want to spoil it for you, so I'm trying to find that.
Well, I think from what you've said, people who have played the game will know exactly what you're talking about, and people who haven't have something to look forward to.
Okay, so just leave it there.
I would say so.
Okay, and if you want to give a more modern answer, Resident Evil 7.
I
would be
forgot
that.
you played that bad game.
Yep. I don't know if I'd call that a bad game.
Well, I don't mean bad as in a not good video game. I mean bad as in evil.
Oh, it's horrifying, and I couldn't even really tell you the part of that game that scared me the most. That's many games. It's anything I guess not just games, movie. Like the times that get scary the most is when everything gets just dead silent. Like it just gets quiet. and then you have to just, is something about to happen, and then either it does or it doesn't. But regardless of what happens, it makes you get tense in that moment because they screwed with you by suddenly, you're having all these noises, whether it be dissonant sounds or crickets or whatever have you going on, and then suddenly it stops, and that's when you notice, okay, something just changed. What's about to happen? Am I safe? Am I in danger? Is this bad? And they just mess with you. So, and Resident Evil 7 does that a lot, as well as Dead Space. They both do it a lot. So, anyways, that is my answer. So you've had plenty of time to think of your answer. So Jay, where do you land?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is Until Dawn.
Okay.
I haven't played that many horror games. I mean, like my favorite, probably quote unquote Halloween game is Left 4 Dead 2. But that's not really like you don't get scared in that game.
Well,
that's just a game with a lot of zombies.
If you are with a group of friends and you are on a map you're familiar with and you're close to an end, but suddenly you hear a witch, you get a little concerned.
Concerned, yes. Scared, not really.
Different kind of.
And that's coming from a guy who scares easy. So.
Different kind of, not a frightened scared, more of a, crap, we might lose.
Yeah, one of those things.
Yep.
So yeah, there's that. Like Left 4 Dead, not Left 4 Dead. Until Dawn is a fantastic game, and I like it a lot.
What moment? Do you have a singular moment you would say that scared you the most out of that one?
2 moments. One of them was not actually the game itself. I had someone during a part where, I mean, it wasn't even a scary part. I was just like walking around, and I thought my stream was kind of quiet and empty, and then someone all of a sudden donated like a whole bunch and set off one of my alerts and scared the heck out of me. But in game itself, I mean, I'm skeptical to talk about this because I don't want to ruin someone else's experience.
Gotcha.
It's a linear game, and you're going to get a similar experience every time. And if I tell my experience, I don't want someone to be like, "Well, now I know this is coming." So I'm not going to talk about it. But it's the part with the Wolverine. We'll just go there. That'll be like, again, the people who have played the game will be like, "Oh yeah, the Wolverine." People who haven't are going to be like, "What is he talking about?"
Just going back to mine, just real briefly, and we'll end the podcast there. But that, I'm not going to talk about what happened specifically, just so I don't spoil it for Jay or for anybody else. But going back and looking at it now, the moment is not that scary in and of itself. What got me was, as we were saying, it being a different time, not really knowing what to expect at all, and then suddenly, as the expression, that fit hitting the shan that freaking fast. It was just like escalation of heart rate, really. So like, oh gosh, what the frick do I do? And they really mess with you because at that point, and I never played really any indie games at that stage of my life, so I certainly didn't have anything like this to compare to where you didn't even have a weapon at that point. Like, you had nothing, and then all this was happening before you, and you're genuinely, what do I do? What?
Kind of reminds me of the beginning of Bloodborne, honestly.
A completely different situation, though. I felt a lot more panicked in Dead Space than I did in the.
I don't know. I played the beginning of Bloodborne. I felt pretty panicked in that one.
No, I think this was worse.
Okay.
Because
yeah. On that note, we've been going for like 45 minutes now. I think it's time we wrap this up, whether we want to or not. So please, if you're listening to this on Spotify or YouTube or iTunes, because we have them there now, head on over to YouTube's page and be a part of the discussion. Or you can tweet at us. My Twitter is @Let'sJays. Matt is Matt Lane Let's Plays.
Mm-hmm.
That's your main one, right?
It is.
I thought you had 2. So.
Well, I do, but it's easier just to keep this organized this way.
I'm Let's Jays. He's Matt Lane Let's Plays. Be a part of the conversation. Our main hub is on YouTube. We just put it out on other places so that other people can listen wherever they like.
And on top of that, if you would also comment any question you can think of that you would like us to talk about. We still don't have a date, but
I thought we did have a date. I have one in my calendar.
Do we? For episode 5?
Yeah, November 3rd.
That's right. I forgot about that. My bad. So November 3rd. See, this is why I have Jay,
We
because
don't have a time, but we have a date.
don't have a time, but November 3rd, we are going to stream episode 5. Don't know how long. I don't have a freaking clue right now what we would talk about. We would like to talk about what you would like us to talk about. So,
And in this way, since we're doing it live, you can actually be a part of the conversation
right,
live.
in that moment,
So
it could be
it'll be very different.
It could be a 30-minute thing depending on interaction. It could be really long depending on interaction.
Yeah, we could spend hours just talking about video games.
Don't know.
Good time.
But
We'll have our face cams up most likely, so you get to stare at our ugly faces. But yeah, that's it for today's episode. Join us back next week when we look into the deep-seated question: how many pairs of socks is Matt Lane wearing right now?
dum dum dum. It would have been much funnier to like insert the Law and Order sound at that
I
point.
mean, that's on you, man. You're the editor.
Boom boom. Oh
I feel
gosh,
like we'd get sued by Dick Wolf.
probably.